Is there any talk of you being in Shrinking?
There's talk of it if we could make it.
Sexy.
Yeah, I'll only do it if it's a sexy part.
If you could make it one, sorry.
No, sexy. You're absolutely right.
I wanted to ask you some genuine questions because I don't know all the answers, obviously. But you were saying about how Ted Lasso came about and that you were a writer in the writer's room, and then it went from there. But in terms of how did you end up writing for Ted Lasso initially? Like, was that?
I'd done a pilot for Bill Lawrence, who's one of the co-creators of Ted
Who
Lasso.
also you're co-creating
Shrinking
with, yeah.
Yeah, and the pilot didn't get picked up, but we stayed in touch, and he knew I was a writer as well as an actor.
So for Isaac to do what he did today, even though it was wrong, I give him love.
I always say to, when people ask me for advice, I'm always like, there's no magic phone call, it doesn't happen, you have to make your own stuff, keep working, keep creating.
Yeah.
I did get a magic phone call from Bill Lawrence, completely out of the blue, saying, do you want to come and, I think you'd be good for this football show. We need an English guy, and like, you know about football. So then I FaceTimed with Jason, and we sort of fell in love, and then 3 days later I was in the writer's room, day one.
And how big is a writer's room like that? Because it's a British show primarily, or is it American?
All American. I
All
mean,
American
there's two English people in the writer's room, me and Phoebe Walsh, who plays Jane.
Yes, yeah.
And everyone else is American. I would hate to get this number wrong. 10 to 12
Interesting.
of us in the room.
But you were in a writer's room on Zoom, or were you?
No, we were in person. This was pre-pandemic season 1.
Were you
Season
here?
2 we were on Zoom. Yeah, we were here in LA, we filmed in London.
And how long was that writing process?
Half a year writing, half a year filming, basically.
And then you told me about the process of obviously how you got the part, and then was that surreal going into a show that you already knew, or was that easy in a way because you
tell me, because I like you've really played this well. So I'm here to interview you. Being an actor who also gets to write on it, I think is wonderful because you can be involved in changing stuff, and if it doesn't sound right or there's a question you have, you can. I've only really done one acting job where it was like you say the words exactly as written, and you cannot change af or the or anything like that. And I really struggled with that.
Yeah, and I've done just one as well. Yeah, and I found it quite hard, and it's tricky because as an actor you want to be like, okay, I want someone to have a really specific, fully encompassed worldview of this show. So detail is cool in a way, but then sometimes when on the things that where you literally have to be word for word, it goes against your own just instincts about kind of how you would do as an actor, or even just kind of human nature, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's funny because you want to give them enough to go, okay, I trust you, but then.
How much of White Lotus did you? I got many questions about it, and one is, did you have all 6 scripts when you started?
When I auditioned for it, there was only a pilot, and Mike writes really fast, but it did change a bit, but the DNA didn't change much. But what Mike is really good at is he knows what he wants, but he also lets you improvise and mix around the scene a little bit. And in reality, when I'm watching it, most of his stuff is the meat that stays.
Yeah.
But what it allows you to do as an actor is just feel really free. So you could have like a 6-minute take.
Did you vote, babe? Be honest.
I did.
Doesn't matter.
I voted, didn't I?
I don't think you did.
I think I did. I did.
It's tricky because some of that you think like actors improvising makes me want to kill myself because they were, they could be quite indulgent, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also within that you can find some interesting details. So it was quite fun.
There's a thing we did, made a film called Super Bob many years ago, and one of the things we did is we improvised a lot, but what we did was improvise into and out of the scene.
Exactly.
So really what you see in the film is mostly what was written, but it feels natural because we fucked around to get into it.
Interesting, and I think that's pretty much what that's what
Yeah.
it was. Yeah, it was like intros and outros, and I think that's helpful because, as you know, because you did it, you warm into it, and then you can find some interesting outs of the scene which you might be able to use later. It's tricky. I think improv work. I don't know about you. You could tell me what you think, but generally that works well for comedy. I find because you can. But for me, sometimes watching like hard improv drama.
Yeah, it's not great for drama.
It's not great.
It's not great for drama because drama has to be, you get people improvising really serious, heavy shit, and
giving
you've got to be careful with that.
You do.
But I also think even with comedy, we're very sort of strict on Ted Lasso. Like, you have to be very clear on what's the emotion of the scene, what's the through line of the scene, what are the stakes of it. Like, you can't just go like, oh, improvise about toast for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It might be funny, you won't use any of it.
Exactly.
Like, it's got to be about the thing.
Because it's ultimately meaningless, whereas comedy mixed into the narrative of the scene is interesting, yeah.
It's funny. We had a lot in common back then.
We did.
We both thought one another such a job.
And now look at us.
What I think is interesting, if I may, is that you are playing a character that we, as an audience, sort of view through other characters. We're rarely your point of view.
Mm-hmm.
We are watching you through Aubrey Plaza and through Will Sharp and kind of trying to work you out the whole time. And you're kind of playing this game of like, I think he's a good guy. Is he a bad guy? Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? And in terms of how you play that as an actor, because I guess in your head, you know your story, right? You're not acting it from the point of view of them. So were there things you discussed with Mike White or wherever where it was like, hold back on that or do more of that? Do you know what I mean? Like it's a weird place
I know
to
what you mean.
be performing from.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because in some ways on the face of it, he could, in certain scenes, he's so duplicitous or villainous or just just a massive dickhead. But that is
It's so charming.
yeah, well, that's boring on its own, isn't it? So
Yeah.
you kind of want him to be as likable within that framework as possible. And to me, I liked him as a character and as a person, even though I saw that he was, he's clearly manipulative, toxic, all these, potentially a sociopath, the way he interacts around people. But I wanted to make sure that I enjoyed his company in some way. He's the type of person that you wouldn't want to be best friends with, but you would enjoy being around him.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought that was important. And also I thought his physicality was important, which when I first read the scenes was like, I wanted him to be large, very tactile.
Well, it's kind of like food, Yeah. Gorge yourself until you're sick. You swear you'll never eat another bite, and then a few days later, you're hungry again.
Because there's something about like masculine or manipulative men, but then with being quite tactile and friendly, as long as you don't push into a kind of creepy zone, there's something quite disarming about that. So I kind of wanted him to be both things at the same time, so you're never 100% sure what kind of guy he is, really, essentially.
But I think that's interesting. The one thing I learned about writing that I do think applies to acting as well is you have to love all the characters that you write and act. So even if you're playing the worst, you have to love them.
I agree.
Otherwise,
you have to find a way in of understanding him, obviously, and empathizing with him. But you have to like them, because you have to find some thread of humanity even in a fucking horrendous person. Yeah.
How was it because also, there's the reality of you were like sequestered in Sicily, right?
Yeah.
To make this. For how long were you there?
6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
And like, I think you and Megan, who plays your wife, are excellent. And like, can I ask sort of how quickly you found that relationship? Were there things did you just hang out to get sort of comfortable with each other, or were there like how much time did you?
We spent a lot of time together, and and again, as you know, it's a bit of potluck because you don't, you know what I mean, like chemistry, or even if you like hanging out with a person, not sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's really hard.
Yeah.
because we're supposed to be married, and Mike had been like he wants it to be the effervescent couple who, even though you disagree with their views and blah blah blah, you want the energy to be centered around them. So you want there needs to be a genuine love, genuine tactility between them. So when she flew in, essentially, I just called her and I was like, we should hang out as much as possible. Is that okay? And she was like, yeah, we'd love to. And so we just hung out. And luckily she's a very relaxed, effervescent person anyway. So you just never know exactly what you're going to get. What about in terms of Ted Lasso, before we go on to other stuff, what about the character?
Neither of us want to answer questions.
I know. Checking it back your way. The character who is your kind of nemesis through 1 and 2, and then
Jamie Tart, Phil Dunster.
The character Phil Dunster plays. Was that something in a way? I guess because you were acrimonious, you didn't have to create something. It could evolve naturally. Or
we love each other.
Oh yeah, you do.
We love each other, and we did immediately. I think we had. Weirdly, however you want to put it, I think we had chemistry, and you could sense that it started to change. It informed things because it was like, oh, there's something good with these two together that pushed it into a slightly different direction, I think.
And then did you carry on? Because you said you were in the writer's room for season 1, then you ended up playing, one of the lead characters in it. What about season 2 and 3?
Oh, I stayed writing as part of the writing team.
For the whole.
Yeah.
Oh wow. And were you in the writer's room then again?
Yeah, for season 2 and 3. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, but then it becomes tricky after you've made the thing, because then for season 1, no one knew I was Roy. Season 2, they know I'm Roy, and I tried to. I mean, I'm sure they would tell you I'm very bad at this. I try not to pitch much for Roy because I don't want to be. Because I truly do love all the characters, and I truly am invested in all of them. But obviously, if I say I think Roy should save a baby.
Exactly.
People
He's a bit of a legend. He should be
shouldn't he
killing
be
someone.
do something really cool this season? And so I try not to pitch much for Roy, and I try to be just like, hey, I'm just here as a writer. But Sasha, who's one of the writers, always says she knows. I think instinctively, in the same way, if you pitch for Beard, Coach Beard, who's Brendan Hunter, he's one of the creators and writers. You sort of say something about Beard, then you'll look to him. Almost unconsciously, you'll look at his face. So whenever anyone pitches Roy, they look at me, and I try not to
just dead
face. But Sasha says she knows if I like a pitch or not by the angle of my eyebrows. If they're slightly lowered, she's like, "He didn't like that one."
Good.
Yeah. So 6 months altogether. Most of your time is the 4 of you. You and Aubrey and
yes.
Will.
But we were all initially. I stayed in the hotel, but because I have a young child, Will and I were off-site off-site as if it's like a fucking nuclear zone or something. But it was fun. But I've said this before. But there was a kind of interesting melding of story and reality, because obviously there's a piece of the character in every character, right?
Yeah.
There's a piece of you in Roy, and so you had this thing where we're playing these characters, then drinking in the bar or going for dinner. But then actors being actors have, let's just say politely, sometimes specific wants and needs, should we say, which are also inherent to...
I really hope there's subtitles explaining what you mean.
Some of Mike's writing is about kind of the hilarity of the mundane, the hilarity of the privilege, right? And actors, there's privilege there. We're all privileged to be doing this, right? So just the molding of the two realities, in a bar at night, you're like, am I in an episode of the White Lotus, or am I just having a drink at the end of the day? Because I don't fucking know.
To volcanoes and all the threesomes of past and present and future.
6 months is a long time. Even in Paradise, I'm sure you went mad at some point.
No, it was genuinely, though. It was one of those jobs that was easy. And it was, because, again, the writing's very good. But it's interesting to hear about, again, throwing shit at you, but interesting to hear about how the show that Shrinking, right, which you co-created.
Yeah.
Just in terms of time, before you shoot, so you're writing and developing, I've done in terms of producer.
Yeah.
But the thing that must be hard is watching rushes and compilations, doing all the work post it if you're also in it. I mean, how do you delineate your time?
Someone asked me for some business magazine or something where they were like, you do 3 shows at once and you do stand up and you do this, what's your secret? And I was like, oh, the secret's I'm fucking insane. That's the secret is my brain has to be that busy, otherwise I go nuts. Like, as in, I would do Ted Lasso in the day, and then at night I'd be on Zoom with shrinking and watching Rushes, or in the writer's room on Zoom or whatever. And I always think, oh, this is mad. But then if I don't do that, I'm like, you know, any gap, I'm like, what
And
am I
have you
gonna
always
do?
felt you've been like that?
I think
kind
I've
of?
always been like that, yeah.
And I'm
What about you?
mainly interested what business magazine you're checking.
Yeah, I feel bad because if they're watching this, it's a great business, you know, the business man. But you produce now.
I started,
new thing.
only about 3 years ago. A friend of mine, he produced an indie that I did, a Sundance Labs indie, and we've worked together a lot. And me and Andrew Corkin have produced together, so we do TV and film and documentaries. And recently for Netflix, which showed that we were talking about Pepsi Where's My Jet.
Yeah, which is excellent.
The three of us have worked together since we did Richard Gere indie back in like 2013 or something. And
What was that?
it was called Franny, but it was one of those films.
Okay.
It had a different name. The name evolved. It was a great film. It was a very small film.
Right.
Not many people
They
saw it.
changed the name for tax write-off reasons.
Yeah,
Okay.
or territory reasons, according
Right.
to how sexy Richard Gere was in Italy or something like that.
Like, one of the reasons I started writing was because I didn't want to be an actor complaining about no scripts or no good parts. Like, make your own shit. Is that why you started producing?
Yeah, I think I really like the development process. Firstly, I love
Right.
finding stories, chasing them, wrestling them off people. You know, because often, as you know, with IP, for example, you're often not you're the smallest checkbook in the room. If you know what I mean, you're up against, and you have to kind of hustle to charm or convince someone that the best person to tell your story is that. I like that process. But yeah, it really was having a bit more control. Honestly, I'd done some kind of early-ish in my career. I'd done quite a few kind of studio-ish movies back to back, and I didn't enjoy pieces of that. So it was trying to find a bit of control and a bit of creative input within that, I guess.
So you did the Divergent films, right? Which is big bananas. And you was
medium.
fairly young.
Yeah,
doing
that was early on. Yeah.
Was that
'cause I started.
overwhelming and terrifying, or was it?
No,
fun?
it wasn't. But you know, those type of films, they're quite specific. They have to be built in a way that is the widest common denominator, and that can sometimes drain some of the natural creativity from the process. You know, so I think it was a reaction, something that I felt that I was kind of, sounds so fucking cheesy, but like connected to in some way, you know, the IP or emotionally in some way. So, but I find it hard. But it's interesting because you say about you just love to be on all the time, but I find it hard to juggle sometimes. You know, like I'm less good at that. I'm less.
Do you
good
prefer sort of one thing, full focus?
I'm less good at being spread. I wish I was better,
Yeah.
to be honest. But
No, I think that's the right way to be.
I don't know. But clearly not.
And well, as in, I always read stuff where it's like, pick one thing and focus on that, and I'm like, no thanks.
Is there any talk of you being in Shrinking?
There's talk of it. If we could make it
Sexy.
yeah, I'll only do it if it's a sexy part.
If you could make it one, sorry.
No, sexy. You're absolutely right. You know, I sort of, I don't want to be there for the sake of, just because I want to hang out with.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you want to be there for a reason.
It's
If there's
gotta
an
be-
actual interesting narrative
Yeah.
reason for a character that you could
Exactly.
create with. Yeah.
I'm interested in the fact that the first thing you made is a documentary that you're not in or a part of. I'd say that's a good sign in terms of what you being interested in stories and all sorts of things. The fact that the first thing you made isn't a thing for you to be in. But then
the
I
first
also
big,
assume you're going to do other things for yourself.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, to be honest, a part of it also was I'm not sure I want to be in front of the camera until retirement. You know, if I make it that far, you know, life is complicated.
Yeah.
No, but you know what I mean. I'm not necessarily sure I could see myself just being an actor, and you know, my parents' age or our parents' age. You know,
Right.
there's a definite point that I'd like to just not.
Interesting.
I'd like to not be in front of the camera.
What's that age?
I'm 38 now, so I think 44. No, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but
Why do you think I'm going to have had enough of it? Like, do you already feel like I've had enough of this.
It's not so much I've had enough, but I always saw it as it's a job, and I think the world that has evolved in the last couple of decades, now it's hard to delineate between the job and celebrity and that kind of thing. And some of it I find uncomfortable, I guess, being in front, just the kind of focus. How about you?
I get that.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
But you came from a position where you did both from really the beginning.
Yeah, I always did both. And also I think I had different from you, the kind of well-known, being more recognised or whatever, came very late, which I'm grateful for, because I'd be dead.
You would be a crack addict.
I'd be a crack addict for sure.
Yeah. And what did you
Within
do?
weeks.
Like, did you study?
Week 2.
Exactly. Did you study writing at university?
No, I did the Royal Court?
Yeah.
I did a Young Writers Royal Court sort of Tuesday night 10-week thing.
Yeah.
That was the place where I learned that thing. I was like, I'm not sure what else I learned there. I'm sure I learned some stuff. No disrespect to the course, but it was in that class where they specifically said you have to love all of your characters, whoever you write.
Yeah.
And I've applied that to everything.
Yeah.
I think that because this will be annoying to say because I can't say the show out of respect, but there was a show that I really liked season 1 of, and then I gave up season 2 because it felt like the writers hated one of the characters, like in a way that it was a weird feeling of like almost as if they were bullying this character. Like there was no love for this character. It was made with hate. It felt kind of unpleasant. You know what I mean? I was like, what's happened here?
The character ended up representing something for the writers.
Yeah,
which
or
was...
maybe they hated the actor. I don't know if they'd fallen out with the actor or something. But every week that the character was kind of humiliated and in a way that didn't seem funny, or there was something negative built into it that felt nasty and unpleasant. And I thought, that's it. That's what I'm talking about. Now tell me this.
No, I just wanted to ask you about shrinking,
hell, man.
because my wife, a lot of her family are psychoanalysts.
Oh, really?
So I kind of know that world quite a lot, and I didn't know it at all before I met my wife. In fact,
how long ago did you meet your wife?
A while ago, but I think the Britishness and how I grew up and stuff, I think I was, I don't know, it might have been the same for you, but I was fairly wary of it.
Emotionally repressed and shut down?
Well, emotionally repressed, shut down, all that stuff. But also of the process, I kind of thought it was bollocks, basically. But then since the journey of understanding more about it and doing it myself, and I found it really fascinating, like in terms of the human brain, in terms of recognizing patterns, in terms of all this kind of stuff. But and also the culture of it's quite different. And watching Shrinking the other night, because what are they? Are they psychotherapists, psychoanalysts? Are they?
They're talk therapists.
Talk therapists, which in America
CBT.
Are they like Jungian or no? Because it's not the same.
Oh, they're CBT.
Okay, got it. But it's because it's slightly different in America the way it's done, is it, or not really?
I don't know.
Fuck no.
I mean, I don't know. I think everyone does it slightly differently.
Yeah, I guess. But that was an idea that you had with Bill, basically.
Yeah, I'm interested in therapy and therapists and the relationship that, I don't know if you have a therapist, but
yes, yeah.
How long have you had your therapist?
I'm not at the moment, but several years.
Yeah, that's amazing. You have this weirdly, incredibly intimate relationship with someone for years. That is also,
but you know nothing
about them. Supposedly, it's a very structured relationship, but at the same time,
you share.
You build years with. The woman, Dr. Sharon in Ted Lasso, was based on a real therapist. I hope I'm allowed to say this, but someone involved with Ted Lasso had a therapist who died, and they were obviously very sad about it. But it was also like someone who they'd seen this therapist for like 30 years of their life. So it was like such a strange thing they couldn't talk to them anymore. They couldn't, but at the same time, it's not family, it's not friend. It was almost like, was he allowed to go to the funeral? Was that inappropriate? Do you know what I mean? Like such a strange area to explore that dynamic. And all I really care about is relationships. That's all I care. That's why I loved White Lotus, because it's just a show about the dynamics of these couples.
Yeah.
And with Shrinking, it for me, at least the first thing that got me kind of excited was this idea of a father who's been a bad father for a year, who is now getting himself back together. He has a pretty good reason, which is grief, but he's lost his authority and he's been bad. He's been absent and bad to his daughter, and now he's pulling himself back together. It's this kind of, can he ever re-establish himself as a dad, as a parent that she will respect and listen to and love, and maybe it's impossible to ever get back there. So then what is it after that? That kind of thing is interesting to me. I asked the shrinking writers, I told them I was coming to see you today. They were very, very excited.
Oh, really?
All of them very, very excited. And they wanted to ask you a load of questions. Most of them were, will you go out with them, etc.
And my answer is yes.
But okay, that's great. Ashley Nicole Black, good news. Two of them wanted to know, and I guess, this is a very personal question you might not answer. They were like, do you think your marriage in the White Lotus is a good marriage?
I think it's an interesting question. I don't, it probably wouldn't be a good marriage for myself personally, but I think what's interesting about it is it frames our understanding of how couples operate in a successful way. And I think we are still, our age group, we still have the ghost of our parents' generation, which was fairly standardized, formalized idea of monogamy. Whereas now the evolution of relationships and people younger than us who are sexier and trendier and, way more fluid in various other ways, things have evolved, and it's like, should you judge someone for how they operate within their own relationship if they're happy, right? I mean, and they seem to be happy, and that's one thing Megan and I talked about a lot, was they are happy and they genuinely love each other.
Yeah.
So perhaps it wouldn't be for me, I don't know about threesomes on Sundays and then, picking my son up from soccer practice
from
on
outside
Monday morning.
the bedroom. Oh, we didn't hear all that.
Exactly.
That was private
Get
time.
me a juice. But I think it's an interesting dichotomy about how relationships work. And again, what's the other side of that is the Aubrey Plaza and Will Sharp character. They represent a more formalized idea of relationships and love, and how perhaps they are trying to find a looseness to reestablish their understanding of one another within the prism of a relationship. Yeah.
Both seasons of White Lotus, one is more, I guess, about money and power, and one is about power and sex. But they both head
sex and
towards
gender,
sex and gender. Yeah, they both head towards a kind of resolution to do with the animal. You know what I mean? That kind of things are resolved by people stop pretending to be civilized people.
It's very true. Yeah, exactly. And then there's a very astute in terms of the animal that runs in both seasons. Yeah. In embracing of the animal and the leaving behind of kind of social norms which may kind of entrap us in some way. And that's what Mike had always said, especially about season 2. It's a conversation about the basest human urges and how we follow them and how we give in to our desires and all.
Yeah. This is a question that actors get asked, and I often think the answer is, oh, I got offered a job. But you seem to be, I could be wrong, you seem to be at the level now where you do get offered lots of things rather than like, I took the only job that was taken. So now, at the stage you're at, is there anything can you pinpoint, or is it just, if I like the thing, what you're looking for in a part?
It's interesting because I always thought when I was first starting out, I don't know if you've thought that, I assumed there'd be a point where you kind of reach some kind of special precipice and then you're just like, bing,
Yeah.
But in reality, it's always a hustle, right? In some form. Bits get easier, bits get harder, but it's always a bit of a hustle. But for me now, what I've realized is you can't polish a shit script. And I think with actors, and I don't know if you've ever been here, where you've just been an actor and not been a writer on a script, where you think, there's pieces of this. There's like 35% of this.
In this shit.
We can make it good.
Yeah.
In reality, it's very, very hard to make something really good out of something that doesn't have the bones of a good script. And I think that took me a while to realize, because I think you want to believe that you can kind of, and maybe this is part of why I was always desperate to kind of be doing the other side of the camera as well, but you want to believe that you can will it into being the best version of it. But if you don't have the bones of something good, then you're always a bit fucked.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true of everything. It's true of the improv as well. It's why improv is shit if you don't have the bones of the scene.
Right.
If
yeah.
they're just like, can you just be funny? And we'll, it's like, but why? Like, what's the point of this?
Yeah, where am I going and where did we come from and all those, exactly. One question about, just chugging.
This is fucking Frost Nixon. Go on. Go on, Sad.
The Harrison Ford of it, right?
Yes.
So you and Bill, you come up with this idea, and then you bring a package together, you bring it to market.
Yeah, we get Jason Segel.
Get Jason Segel, who's a writer as well. At what point does the Harrison chat start? At what point do you start flirting with him?
It's a weird thing of like, Jason Segel was like, he was in our head and Bill had an in with him, so it wasn't like completely unreasonable that we were going to talk to him. The Harrison Ford side of it was like...
Was that post Green Light?
No, before Green Light.
Interesting.
So we got the green light pre-Harrison Ford.
Oh, that's what I meant.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
so we had
so
Jason, me and Bill was the package.
So Apple, and you took it to Apple because you took it to other people in the market,
Yeah,
but obviously
Apple-
you have a relationship with
Apple
them.
made it clear that we had no choice to go anywhere else.
Oh, cool.
They were
Right.
very
Great.
nice. And we're like, if you take this anywhere else, we'll fucking kill you. So we're like, okay.
Great.
But then the Harrison Ford side of it was like, it felt so unrealistic
Yeah.
that it was like, yeah, it'd be great if it was someone like Harrison Ford. Like it was a Harrison Ford-esque character. Whereas Jason Segel, I actually don't think there was an alternative. We had no backup plan because it was like he has that thing we need of being vulnerable and sort of sensitive naturally, that he can be a bad dad and we'll still forgive
Root
him,
for him,
and love him. Whereas with the Harrison Ford, it was like, obviously we can't get Harrison Ford, but someone like him would be great. And then we sent it, his agent read it and liked it and then sent it to him, and then he wanted to do it. It was fucking mad.
Really, because I heard all these stories. It's not like you had to take a helicopter out to his,
No, I went to
island
meet him.
and pitch him. Or...
No, he was in London. I was in London, and I think his agent had called and said that Harrison is interesting. He'd like to meet with one of you. Bill was in LA. I was in London. I get a missed call from Harrison Ford. I'm like, fuck me.
Jesus.
I've still kept the voicemail. It's like, hey, it's Harrison Ford, and I was like, shit. And I called him and he said, do you want to meet for dinner on Saturday? But I had a stand-up gig and I was like, I can't, I've got a gig. And he seemed like, oh. And then I
Fucking brick.
Yeah, and I called Bill and I was like, Harrison Ford just called. He wanted to meet on Saturday, but I can't. And he was like, are you fucking mad? You cancelled the gig. It's Harrison Ford. And I was like, I can't. Like 40 people have bought tickets. I'm not cancelling. I then texted Harrison. I was like, sorry about Saturday. Have you got any time Friday after work? I could meet you for a drink or something. And he said, come to my place at 6:30. So I go there and everyone's calling me from America like, don't fuck this up. Like this is...
That's pressure.
This is on you.
Yeah, Jesus.
Close this deal with
That's
Harrison Ford.
fucking hardcore.
And I go to his apartment, he answers the door and he looks like Indiana Jones. And he goes, best script I've ever read. And I go, Shrinking. And I think he must be confused. He thinks I'm someone else. And he goes, best dialogue I've ever read. And we walk into his place and he's got scripts everywhere.
Different
Scripts. Yeah. So clearly, people must send him stuff all the time. Yeah. And I'm thinking, this is really embarrassing. He thinks I'm someone else. And I like fish through the scripts and I find the Shrinking one. I go, Shrinking? And he goes, yeah. And I go, oh, do you want to be in it? And he goes, yeah. And I go, okay. And I go, is that business done? And he goes, looks like it. And I went, okay. And he went, let's eat. And then we fucking spent the whole evening talking about it, eating. It was fucking unbelievable. I was like,
that's a good story, man.
I thought this is how Hollywood would be. Like it was so easy. It was a joke. But it took all evening for me to kind of work out. I was like, why is this happening? And I think, forgetting I think he genuinely really liked the script. And I do think...
Had you seen Ted Lasso? Like, he had got a flavour of...
No, I don't think he had.
No.
I think his wife had seen Ted Lasso, but I don't think he had. But I think he liked the script, and I think he liked the character. And in fairness, you go, it's not a part he's played before. I realised that, this is exciting for him. He's doing something he hasn't done before. He's fucking funny. He hasn't had the chance to be really funny. He's always been funny, but never considered a comedian, I think. Mm-hmm. So I think for him it was like, and I thought that's very cool. Like he's 80 and he's going, I'm doing a new challenge. I'm doing a new exciting thing. That's really cool. It's looking great. Good day to you, sir.
Good day to you, sir. That was a pleasure.